up, guys? Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome. And here. All right. Okay, I'm told we're live. I don't see that we've gone live on YouTube, by the way, yet, Greg. Okay, we are live. There's a little bit of a delay there. So, and we're just getting used to a brand new situation with, this is welcome to my basement, everybody. I hope you're doing well. My name is Jeff Gibby. I'm going to kick everybody off today. And we do have a great guest, very well-timed talk about fishing for a bottom. Let's go ahead and get to it. So here we go. Today's demonstration is designed to instruct you on using Metastock and the accompanying software plugins. It is not a recommendation to buy or sell, but rather guidelines to interpreting and using specific indicators and features within the software. The information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading, and Metastock shall have no liability based on for any investment decisions based on the use of the software, any trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with the company. So today we have a very, very special guest. We haven't brought him in here for a while, but we're going to bring in top market timer based on Timers Digest of 2019, the top market timer based on kind of how they actually rate things. And I'll let Mark talk to you a little bit about that. We were talking a little bit about the market earlier today. It's been a good day to trade. I hope you've been long. Let's go ahead and kind of get everybody, let's get Mark in here. So Mark, how are you doing today?
Hi, how you doing, Jeff? Thank you for having me.
Doing good. Tell us a little bit about this Timer Digest contest.
Well, I don't know if you call it a contest, but Timer Digest magazine, it's got to be 30 years, has been ranking newsletter writers and other analysts, and I've been on their list for a long time. Been ranked top timer for many years in different categories, gold, bonds. They had me number one, as you just said, for 2019. I think I was number one in 2016 too. And there's a period between 2007 and 17 where I was the number one intermediate timer. So it's just based on market calls. Are you bullish, bearish, or neutral on the market? And I don't have the formula that they use to calculate, but it's nice publicity and it shows that I'm doing something right. So I'm grateful.
Yeah, you're doing great. I did. Do you have a request popping up on one of your screens to say share my webcam?
Well, I just lost the camera.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's okay because it's not sharing. But I'm also going to turn over the request for the controls as well. So I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter here. All right, we can see you now.
Okay, thank you.
And it should pop up with a little bit of a screen that says, hey, do you want to share your screen?
You see it now?
Yeah, it looks perfect. So as I mentioned before, we are simulcasting to YouTube. If we have questions that come through YouTube, I'll make sure to actually just ask you. I guess we'll do a QA period for that. And likewise, if we have questions from GoToWebinar, I'll ask them as well. So in any case, I can see your screen, I can see your face, I can hear your voice. I'm gonna let you go.
Okay, well, I'm sitting here in the room with 3 dogs, so if we hear some barking during the presentation, you'll understand why. I am working out of my home. A little different location than in other recordings, but I've been working out of my home since 1988. So what's happening with the coronavirus and everybody working out of the home is actually old hat to me, and nothing new. But anyway, I enjoy doing it, writing my newsletter and trading the market. On the screen, you're looking at the homepage of vrtrader.com, and obviously I'd love to have you as a subscriber. Of course, we'd love to see you a subscriber to Metastock as well, and my VR signal, which is on Metastock. But these are the various newsletters. We just launched a letter recent weeks called the Market Timing Letter, which is purely the same signals that I give out to clients for selling the market. So you might want to consider that. And we have our Canna letter, our Trading Ace letter, which gives us trading recommendations, individual stocks, and our Metal Resource letter in my book. And don't forget about the VR Forecaster, which we're going to look at in just a moment, which gives me my projections for the various markets for the year, and so far it's been working out pretty well. The Trader's Book of Volume is available in Chinese as well. It's a compilation of all the volume indicators. Of course, mine is in there as well. It's about 500 pages of material, but if you want to learn about volume in the market, which is the premise of all my work, I encourage you to go to Amazon or other sources that sell it on the internet and get a copy. And we don't sell it directly here at VR Trader, but if you click on the link on the website, it will direct you, I believe, to Amazon. So what does the financial future look like? And one of the tools I use, and this is not volume based, but I do cyclical work as well as volume work, as many of you know who follow me over the years. We created this annual forecast model for the Dow. We have this for most of the major markets. It's part of our annual forecast model, the VR Forecaster product, which you can sign up for on the home page. We only have it projected into mid-year, but this was put out in January, and it basically showed that we'd have some type of low in March and then a recovery from that. At that time, there was no indication that, of course, we were going to have the shutdowns in the markets. And frankly, I turned a little bit bearish toward the end of December, thinking the markets were overvalued and we were getting signals in some stocks. I was a little early, but so far we've been on the mark. So this tool alone, it's like the weatherman story. Maybe I should give you that one. You have a forecast, but you always look out the window before you actually give the forecast. You want to double check your short-term work with your intermediate work. This is more intermediate stuff based on cycles and other analysis I've done over the years. I started doing this, by the way, back in 1987, and it did call the crash. I was actually on national television talking about the possibility of a correction or a big sell-off in October. And so this model, I guess, earned its own history there, and we continue doing it since. I'm not saying it's perfect. There are years that it is off, but it has some great correlation. So we'll move on from here. We mentioned on Timer Digest 2019 Timer of the Year. As you know, we're in a very difficult environment now with politics and everything, and it's a bit aggravating. I'm sure it is for most of you who are listening to the news every day, but politicians never let a serious crisis go to waste. This quote comes from Martin Armstrong. And as you can see what's happening in Congress, and hopefully they resolve that. They try to take advantage of every can to take away our freedoms, and fortunately we're continuing to fight for them. So I'm very much on the libertarian side, conservative side of politics. The plunge protection team, you probably all know about that, but I'll bring you up to speed if you don't. Back in 1988, Ronald Reagan signed the executive order for the Working Group of Financial Markets 12631. Been talking about this for the last several decades, and this gives the Secretary of the Treasury, the Chairman of the Federal Reserve, the Chairman of the SEC, and the Chairman of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission permission to go in there and buy the market. Anyways, we know Japan already does this. Japan's in there buying stocks and ETFs. So maybe part of the rally that we've seen here in recent days is finally the plunge protection team coming in there and doing what they have the right to do. And this is well beyond what the Federal Reserve says that they do with normal monetary affairs. So I do a lot of things, including look at the lunar cycles. People think I'm a little crazy, but it's a long and short story. But I was on the floor trading back on the CBOE back in the 70s, and I've aged myself here accordingly. One of my contacts on the floor, who was a financier, and I didn't know who he was at the time, told me that the market was going to change direction around noon at a certain point, noon that day. So I'm there watching the market absolutely reverse at noon, and he told me what he was doing, had to do something with the nodes of the moon or some lunar cycle. Before that, I was laughing, but I stopped laughing. Some of my best friends are financial astrologers. I'm not an astrologer myself, but what I do is I plot the lunar cycles. And on March 16th, overlapped a short-term bottom in the market. We had like 1,000-point rally, even though we failed afterwards, but it was right on a full moon. March 24th, which is one day off from the low we saw this past Monday, the 23rd, there was a new moon. So you watch all these dates. The next one's April 1st and then April 7th. And what I've learned is use your technical indicators. If you're overbought, oversold, see where the moon is, because it does affect commodities, it affects the stock market, and it affects investor psychology. When you think about it, we're with 98% water, and the tides on the earth are controlled by the moon. So I'm a technician, trader, but I look at everything, and including my cyclical forecast. But when I found a correlation like this, and if you go plot it out, you will be amazed who it has. So let's move on. My background really quickly, Stock Trader's Almanac was the first book that I ever read on the stock market. This is the basis for a lot of my cyclical work. Yale Hirsch's classic publication, and the reason I'm showing the 1987 edition is that he dedicated that edition to me and 3 other technicians, calling us the new prognosticators. And about 10 years before this, actually it was more than 10 years before this, it was around 1970, or 72, I had read the Stock Trader's Almanac. It was the first stock market book I ever read, and influenced me to get into the business, among other things. So it was a great honor to be named a new prognosticator at 87, which is obviously a very tumultuous time in the markets, by somebody who you admired and who inspired you to start in the business. What is this, folks? It's a little entertainment, but a little information. I don't know if you've noticed that of course, we have the new United States Space Force out there. I don't know if you took notice or not, but it's almost identical to the emblem that was used in Star Trek for the United Federation of Planets. So is this coincidence, or is there something else going on out there? And I'm not going to get into a discussion of extraterrestrials or anything else out there, but there's certainly some correlation here with what's going on with that emblem, I thought. So we'll talk about this privately at some later point. So here we are at Metastock. Jeff Gibby was kind enough to come to me about 10 years ago and offer the opportunity to take my volume reversal indicator and put it up on Metastock, which we've done. We call it the Metastock add-on. Of course, we'd love to see you as a subscriber to it. This is one of the main technical tools that I use, of those of you who've been following me over the years. And if you go to metastock.com, you can sign up for it. I'm sure Jeff will give you some opportunities at the end of the broadcast to sign on, and perhaps some incentive to do so. We created 3 versions of my volume reversal, and we'll get into a definition of it, and we'll go into more detail, and we have a lot of examples, so I don't know how much we can cover in 1 hour, but I'll do my best. I talk fast, so hopefully we will. So we created 3 versions of the volume reversal, and the volume reversal essentially is a change of direction accompanied by a change of price, and we have a sequential expert, we have a directional expert, and a 2-day expert. Sequential shows all the volume reversals. The directional filters out repetitive volume reversals with some stops included, and the 2-day version has stops. It also has a theory that after a negative or positive volume reversal, you'll automatically get out of the trade in 2 days, or if you're stopped out first, you get stopped out first. So we created these to use the sequential more because I want to see all the volume reversals. Okay, we also have systems customized for various markets too. If you go to the software, you'll see gold, heating oil, natural gas, palladium, and so forth and so on. So you can actually break it down to one of those market sectors and pull up the indicator for those individual sectors as well. So let's look at the methodology. We'll start with the 2-day. I summarize it quickly for you. Basically, it shows VRs as they occur, and we hold the position for 2 trading days or bars. And just as the name implies, this can be applied to any time frame. We can apply to 2 days could be 2 5-minute bars, 2 weekly bars, 2 monthly bars, 2 2-minute bars. I of course use it on a daily basis. It's sort of a skeleton sketch of what it's all about. you look at the left side of your screen, let's say hypothetically you've got a negative volume reversal, and then 2 days later, the little blue emblem you see on the screen is a signal that we just exited the trade. In that particular hypothetical example, it turned out to be okay because it stopped going down for a day or two, but it automatically got you out. Same thing with the middle of the screen, you see a positive VR coming off a bottom. 2 days later, you're automatically out no matter whether you're profitable or not. There was another one a couple see on the right side of the screen, a positive VR. 2 days later, you automatically exited. So this gives you a sense of exit. And the question is, why do we create this? Because over time, I found that within a couple of days of a volume reversal, you tend to get an exit point. In fact, for some of the indexes, we found about 70% probability that when you get a VR, there's a trading exit, not necessarily the end of the move, but a trading exit. And if you're short term and you're looking just to make a trade for a day or two, this could be a good indicator for you, or you could just keep it as a mental indicator that after you do a volume reversal trade, take a look at it a day or two later and consider exiting it. These are some old examples that we created years ago, but they're so good we continue to use them. Toward the end of the broadcast, I'll be showing you some current examples from the last few days, but these are sort of give you an example. So this shows Google way back in 2006, and what you can see here on the screen is notice that we're all the areas that are circled where a VR comes in, and then there's a little blue dot a couple days later after the VR. So that just showed you that that was an exit point. In a couple of instances, it seemed to be an okay exit point. In other points, the stock continued to move beyond it, but the theory was just get out in 2 days. So that's a Google example. So the way Metastock works is when you click on the VR, a little box opens up and it gives you the instructions. So if we just back up 1 second here and you look at the screen, the example in the middle is the one that's being highlighted, and it gives you instructions. It says a VR has been signaled, a long position has been taken, and it tells you exactly what you should be doing at that time with your stop loss and so forth. Let's look at another example, Market Vectors Junior Gold Miners. This is another 2-day example, same pattern, left side, negative VRs, continues to trend down. In theory, you could have just stayed short if you were bearish, but there are little blue dots there showing you that every 2 days you exited from that VR signal. Then on the way up, the same thing you can see as part of the example as well. This is 2-day example for gold, way back in 2010. A box opens up here, and when you click on the VR, telling you that a signal has been generated. So what's very good about it is you get specific instructions on this program when the little VRs are created. Silver, 2-day example in silver, of course, is way back. I've been doing charts for 40 years, and my mentor was doing it from the 1920s, and you find out that charts don't change. It's all the same, patterns repeat, so we could look at an example from yesterday or 2010, it would be the same pattern. So here's an example of SLV, which is the silver ETF with the little 2-day bars. Same pattern here, where you click on it, it'll go back to the previous screen. We're highlighting the second VR from the left. When you clicked on it, it gave you an instruction, said get short, and then you see that little blue stop that came in 2 days later, telling you that was the exit there. I'm going to flip through these pretty quickly here. Let's move on because I want to show more current examples. Here's Microsoft. Let's move on to the next VR, which is the VR Sequential. This is one I tend to use more. Jeff knows this. He knows that I like to look at all the negative and positive VRs. So basically, without reading everything on the screen, it shows all of them. So here's a skeleton example. Every VR is posted. In this particular instance, they were positive, and the stock moved higher, or the index moved higher. The basis of the volume reversal is that volume proceeds. My mentor, Roger Cole, many years ago influenced me with volume, and when I was a floor trader, I developed this even further. And basically, it's volume reversal is defined as a rally day. A positive volume reversal is defined as a rally day on increasing volume coming off of a base day, in this case, a low point. And a negative volume reversal is an increase in volume coming off a high point and the high point being the base day heading down. So we like to look for trades coming off lows for positive volume reversals, and negative plays coming off tops, not necessarily in the middle of the range as much, though of course they do work as well. So basically it's a volume indicator, and we use very few other tools in making our, again, these are trading decisions. So here's an example from way back. I'm throwing this in. This was the flash crash of 2010. I don't know if many of you were around trading at that point, but we generated 3 negative volume reversals, which you can see in the top left of your screen, just days before that big flash crash. And this gave me a lot of notoriety at the time because I was flashing sell signals. I said something's going on, and who knew what was going to happen, but we had that darn flash crash. And a short story is I was actually in a dental chair getting my teeth cleaned at the time of the flash. Imagine how frustrating that was, watching the market drop 1,000 and rally and you weren't able to participate. This is going way back to 2006, showing you all the negative VRs before the market had a big correction, showing you distribution, all the selling that was coming in there. Let's see, I think this is the one that gives you the signal. Okay, so let's back up. So this is palladium on the sequential, and when you hit that negative VR there on the right side, I'll back up 1 second, the little screen opens and it tells you to get short as a negative VR has been formed, and it gives you the stop as well. Where is the stop? I'll give you a good insight into that as well. As you can see in this example, the stop is relatively close to the price that we entered. We generally like to keep stops right off the point from where the volume reversal was formed. So in this particular instance here, that negative VR you're looking at, my stop would literally be the high from the previous bar. So you know if it's going to go back through there, there's something wrong with that signal. And conversely, on the positive volume reversals, we use the low day prior. In most instances, it's the day prior, unless there's an inside day or an outside day involved, which is a small. But generally, we keep the stop relatively tight to where the negative or positive VR was formed. So you're short at that signal, and you don't want to see you go back through the high that was just formed. That's essentially what we're saying in this example here. This is the COMEX. Let me back up again to make sure we have the screen there. Okay, so this is COMEX copper on a weekly chart, applying the sequential. You can use it in any time frame. And we're highlighting that example in the middle where a positive signal came in on the weekly, and it was telling us right there that that's a buy point right there, follow through to the upside following a previous positive volume reversal. This is really interesting because if you see the weekly patterns, you can see that in some instances, and I think I have more examples of this, where if you're that patient and you're willing to keep stops at the lows from which the positive volume reversal was formed, you can end up staying long for a period of time. And in this particular instance, you can see you could have been long for many, many weeks before a negative signal came side of the screen. And I'm going to skip through Cameco to save some time. Here's a dollar index giving you some positive signals. This is Google giving you some negative signals. Again, these are showing all the negative VRs that form. You'll see this on the stock screen when you sign up, and then you'll decide if you want to incorporate this with your other technical work or just use the signal as I do in my trading. This is an example of Oracle on a weekly chart with the positive VRs. You can see there was a negative VR formed for a couple of weeks there on the left side of the screen before a positive came in again. So in theory, you could have been trading that for a couple of weeks before the upside trend resumed, okay? Weekly chart example, again, negative VRs. That was in the index. This is the S&P and the Treasury Bond Index. And JP Morgan Chase, negative VRs. Okay, I thought I edited some of these signals out, so maybe not. In any event, Directional, that's the next version of the volume reversal program that you can buy here in Metastock. What we've done here with the Directional, it essentially filters out repetitive volume reversals and also provides you with stops, okay? Just as you saw stops in the 2-day program, you see it here in the Directional as well. We don't do that with the Sequential. It just gives you the raw volume reversals, which I use, but mentally I know where my stop is. If, like I said a moment ago, if I'm getting a positive VR of a low, I generally keep a stop at that low, and if I'm getting a negative VR of a top, I generally keep my top. But the directional indicator version filters out repetitive VRs if you want to see all of them. So this is an example here, a skeleton example, where if there were a series of VRs were formed, you wouldn't see the series of positives or the series of negatives. You only see them if you were stopped out or if a conflicting volume reversal was formed. It's better seen when we show you some specific examples. Okay, so let's go through an IBM example, COMEX example. I like this one here. This is the gold on a 60-minute chart. Negative VR was formed on the top there, and it gave you a little screen direction, told you to get short. Now, what's interesting about this, if you saw this on the sequential chart, you'd probably see other volume reversals up on the screen, but it's only giving you the one that you need for this particular trade. Let's move on here. This is one from way back. I remember this back in 2010-11. Negative VR comes in. This was EGPT, which was the ETF for the Egyptian stocks. And if you remember, there was that big crisis in Egypt at the time, just before the big gap down, the sell-off. As you can see on the screen, a negative VR was formed on the right side of the screen. And then after the break, a positive VR comes in, literally defines the bottom and gives you a nice trade to the. This is a classic example why I'm such a believer in the volume reversal and volume as a trading indicator. So if you click on the VR, the first one, a box opens up here and gives you the instructions. Negative VR has been generated. Enter a short position, and the stop is set accordingly, which is related to the recent highs. Okay, let's skip through Transocean. Well, we don't have to skip through Transocean. We can take a look at that too. Directional signal here, and highlighted when you click on it, and it gave you the guidance to get long. And remember, when you're using directional, you're not going to see all the signals, or maybe you don't care if you're getting the instructions and the box opens and you're happy with that. And the fact that we're providing a stop in the directional version of the program might be more comfortable for you than just looking at the sequential version, as I mentioned a moment ago. So let's move on here. That's gold, silver, silver trust. Okay, so here the silver directional gave you a negative VR, and I'm switching back and forth, and as you click on the VR, that box opens and gives you your signal. I think intuitively, you know, if you're getting a negative VR, you're supposed to get short, but if you want to click on it, of course, it's giving you some guidelines here as well. So I guess that gives me a chance to jump in some current charts here. And these are some recent recommendations that we had at the in my newsletter and at VRtrader.com bulletins and so forth. So I'm happy that we're only halfway through the presentation now, so I can go through a few of these. These are all great trades for us here the last few days. So this is Dave & Buster's, PLAY is a symbol, and I'm going to show you the 3 versions of the VR only for this particular stock. All the others, I'm just going to show you the sequential version. We'll be here all day, and I don't think you gain any more from that, but I want to show you how it plays out in this one particular stock. No play on words, but it is a ticker symbol play. In any event, we generated this is about 6 days ago, a positive volume reversal. One of the things you're looking at on the screen, I don't know what other indicators you like to use. What I use, I have a 533 stochastic at the bottom, which is what you're seeing down there. I find that's very useful for my volume reversals. You could choose any other momentum indicator, MACD, or anything else that you find useful, but I like the 533 stochastic. And the blue and green lines are simply the 250-day moving. So essentially, this is all I'm looking at. So when I'm looking at a chart, I'm not really looking at anything else. I'm not looking at time and sales. I'm not looking whether there's big bids under the market or big offers. I know there's a lot of trading systems out there that you want to see where all the trades are. Remember, I'm looking at this on a daily basis. I get a volume reversal. My stochastic is rising, so I get long PLAY. And as you can see, it has moved up. It moved up, I think, a little bit higher. I think this chart was from yesterday, so it didn't show the action for today, the 26th, but it moved even higher during the day. So if you were taking a 2-day trade, you'd have had a 2-day benefit. But if you were looking for a play of near term, you can see that unless a negative comes in, it's probably still going to trend higher as it's down so much from the recent highs. But let's move on to another example. So this is the directional. So let's see if we can flip back here and just compare for you. If I see the elimination of some, let's say conflicting VR comes in, you don't see repetitive volume reversal. So in this particular instance here, you're showing the same VR signal that we had. Oh, I'm sorry, I moved on to the next stock. I didn't mean to do that. I went to stay where I'm at. Okay, so let's stay with the directional. So the directional, in the middle of your screen, you can see, positive VR carried the stock for a number of days, and then a couple negative VRs came in. There was a positive in there, and the stock went south. You were stopped out immediately. If you were short on a negative VR and a positive VR would come in, you would immediately exit. And then in sort of the right center of the screen, you'll see there's two little negative VRs and a positive in the middle. So you would have been short, stopped along and stopped out essentially, but then short again when another negative VR came in, and there was no exit point until, as you come down that slope there, a positive VR came in, and in this particular instance, you would have exited your short trade, and if you went long, you would have been stopped out. Looks like about 2 days later by coincidence when the low that preceded that positive VR was broken, okay? Then as we continue down the chart, you can see the positive VR from a few days ago. So the value of the directional indicator is that you have those little blue dots on the screen giving you the stops. They're not only related to the low prior to the positive VR, they're related to whether a conflicting signal came in, as we saw in the right top center of the screen where a negative VR comes in after you have a positive. But for the most part, this confirmed what we saw on the sequential. On the 2-day version, okay, little blue bars exit 2 days after the trade, just little blue bars up on the screen. Again, they could be profitable, or they can continue to be profitable well beyond your exit, or it could be a timely exit for you. So if you see the trade that we just did for our service, and we stayed longer than the 2 days, and on the right bottom of the screen, we had a positive VR about 5 days ago, but that little blue dot came in, and this is really what I wanted to show you. You got out 2 days later. On the 2-day version, I stayed with it because I thought we were coming off a big bottom. The market looked like a bottom. My forecast model is saying higher, so I wasn't so eager to exit. But on the 2-day version, you did exit 2 days later with that little blue bar. As you can see, you did continue higher. So for that reason, I tend not to use the 2-day. It's more of a mental tool for me. But for those who want to see where the 2-day signals are, I would encourage you to also look at the 2-day version of the VR indicator. So you have 3 choices when you sign up. You have sequential, 2-day, and directional, and you just put 1 or 3 of them up on your screen. I would suggest using the sequential to begin with, and decide if you want to see where the stops are. Go to the sequential, and then if you want the 2-day signal also at stops, go to the 2-day version. One of our plays in the last few days, again, just showing you where all the VR is on the screen. This is sequential. This is Weight Watchers. Hit a nice bottom here about 5-6 days ago. Beautiful volume reversal coming in on the bottom. You can see on the right side. If I had a pointer here, I would point to it, but I think you can see it on the screen. Rising stochastic. Another VR came in. Looks like 3 days later, and Weight Watchers continued to move a little bit higher. And again, this was just a beautiful trade using the volume reversal and a rising stochastic. Now, this gives me an opportunity to talk about the stochastic a little bit, because if I don't see a rising stochastic with a positive VR, which is my momentum indicator, or I don't see a declining stochastic with a negative VR, I tend not to be as eager to take the trade. So if you see an example of a negative VR and the stochastic is going up in some of these examples, you'll see that's probably not a trade that I would have normally taken. The negative VR could still work, but it doesn't give me as much confirmation and confidence. So as a general rule, again, you like to see your momentum indicator sort of tie in or round off in the direction that you're going to be going with volume. And I've learned over the years that just gives you a little extra tool to take a look at. So lesson on the stochastic. The IWM, which is the Russell 2000 ETF, a beautiful volume reversal here, coming right off the lows here a few days ago. As you notice, there's a couple of gaps in the chart on the way down. So as a technician, these could then will ultimately be short-term or near-term trading targets for the Russell 2000. I don't believe we got there today in trading, but those would be targets. But the point is to show you the beautiful call here at the bottom. And if you look toward the middle of the screen, before the big sell-off, just before the Russell broke through the blue 50-day moving average, there was a negative volume reversal right there. 2 days later, we broke through and continued all the way down until a positive volume reversal was formed. And if you just look back through the middle part of the screen there, you can see over the last several weeks, there were several negative VRs there, which to me is a sign of distribution in the market that somebody was selling stocks. Yes, there were a couple positives in there, but there were more negatives, and that told me something was wrong, particularly as the index wasn't making any great advance. We were hugging that 50-day moving average, and my cyclical work was a bit negative anyway. So great little play there for us. This is your Dow Transportation ETF, IYT. This is interesting. Right at the bottom on the right side of the screen, there was actually a little negative VR before the positive came in, but you can see the stochastic was rising and had been rising basically all month. So particularly with the market down as much, it was an aberration of some kind in my opinion, but whatever it is, I wasn't going to take a negative VR signal at the bottom of a big sell-off with a rising stochastic. But the very next day, as you can see on the right side bottom there, positive VR came in, and we took off to the upside on the transports. This is the hourly Dow Jones. I just threw this up because I do get questions all the time. Hey, does this work in any time frame? And as I mentioned earlier, it does work, but I don't use it that way. I use it more on a daily or weekly basis. You'd have to look at each individual stock or index, put up the time frame that you're trading, and put up the VR screen, sequential hopefully, and see if there's a good correlation there. If there is, I would suggest considering using that if you're intraday trading. And I have noticed many instances where it works out beautifully. You can see here on an hourly, this is for the Dow Jones. This would be the DIA, that is the ETF for the Dow Jones. You can see that there's a striking correlation here with the negative VRs, positive coming in on an hourly basis. Not 100%, but there are some that really work out that say if you took the VR, there were several hours of an uptrend or several hours of a downtrend. So this is something to keep in mind if you want to fine tune on an intraday or very short term basis, that there is a definite correlation on intraday volume to the short term moves intraday. My preference is take it on a daily basis. This is what you're seeing on those previous examples, and you do get follow through after them. So I'd rather not work as hard and take more of a daily view than watch hourly trades taking a negative VR and exiting 2 hours later, for example. So this is the DDM. We played this as well for our clients, and I traded this myself too. This is the double long Dow Jones ETF. You can see here some beautiful correlation on the positive VR off the bottom, rising stochastic, and even just before the positive that came in about 5-6 days ago, if you're looking at the right side of the screen, there was a negative VR, and it did drop for 2 or 3 days before the positive came in. So again, it's an indicator that there's momentum on the side of the volume, and that's really what the VR is all about. And you know, of course, you consider signing up here at Metastock, but I have to urge you that no matter what you're doing technically, adding this VR to your screen would be of great advantage to you. For the last 40 years, and I consider myself a survivor, and as you know, a top market timer, this has been one of the keys to my success. So I don't want to diminish other indicators. If things are working for you, that's great, but if you added a volume signal like this to your trading, I use it exclusively, but if you want to add that, I think it would be of great benefit to you to confirm or contradict some signals that you might be getting elsewhere. So this is the DXD. This is the inverse Dow to the downside, double short. and right coming off the top, there was a negative VR, which indicates the market was going to rally, and that was a confirming indicator. And right at the bottom, when before the stock market collapsed, you can see the DXD. It's that long vertical line there on the right third section of the screen. That was your top in the stock market, and then a positive VR comes in, so it tells you the negative index was going to rally, which it did dramatically, and there was a little negative signal in there along the way, but it did catch that top in the stock market. It was a good confirming indicator of a market top, and here we are now coming off having a rally, and you can see a negative VR on the right side of the screen in the second bar from the top, telling you that the inverse index is going to go down, meaning the stock market's going to go up. So this was a great confirming indicator to the DDM, the DIA, and other indexes you might have been looking at. Here's good old Tesla, and nice signal here as well. Negative VR coming down. There's really a good one here in the middle of the screen. Again, I don't have my pointer, but it looks like around mid-February, if you look around mid-February up, you'll see a negative VR. And though that is a valid signal by itself, you can see the stochastic is still rising. So even though it gave me warning that a decline was coming, and indeed we did have a decline later, I was waiting for the momentum indicator to turn down. So if you look a few more bars over, you can see a negative VR formed toward the third week of February, and the down at that point, and that was really your sell signal for Tesla. And then on the way down, you can see as it broke through the 50-day moving average on the right side of the screen, there was a negative VR reconfirming it. And then right at the bottom, a positive VR by 5 days ago, and there was one day before yesterday as it was going up. And during that period, few days, we had the rising 533 stochastic on the screen. So that was a great value too. GBTC, I don't know if many of you follow the Bitcoin market, but this is the way you can play it with a stock. It's so more or less an ETF. GBTC has been one of our vehicles to trade. It has reasonable success on the signals. You can see here, if you just let it scan the screen, you can see some nice follow through, both down and up following the volume reversals. But the more striking one occurred here about 20 to 25 days back with a negative VR right off the top when it was in the $12 area. I'm looking at the screen myself here, and headed south along with a declining stochastic indicator. Just want to show you GBTC. This is one you may want to track. I track all the time for volume for trading, and it's very volatile, but sometimes you get some nice plays with it's called the Bitcoin Investment Trust. Okay, this has been a hot stock, Beyond Meat, BYND, both up and down. We've had some nice trades with this on our service on the short side and on the long side. Again, I'm showing you the screen. You can study this at your leisure. You can see here the positive VRs and the rising stochastic providing some nice trades here in BYND, and the most recent one, of course, market low 3-4 days ago. It's sort of a no-brainer. If the indexes were bottoming, you would assume just about all stocks would rally, but you do want to check some individual stocks in case there's a divergence. But as the market was coming down, BYND did have that negative VR just before it broke through that blue 50-day moving average on the right side of the screen, and followed you all the way down until a positive VR was formed. So you caught, in theory, the move if you were just going from one negative signal to the positive signal. And let's see, I already showed you DXD, so this is a repetition. We also track the dollar index. There's UUP, which is for the rising dollar, and the next one, UDN, for the declining dollar. So one of my theories here is the dollar topped out short term, and since stocks had been weak during the period of a rising dollar, as were precious metals to a certain degree, the top in the dollar here short term would be impetus for the stock market to rally. So you're getting, here's the up dollar, a negative VR coming in about 3-4 days ago, right off the top, and it did continue down as the stock market went up. The inverse of this, of course, sequential for the bear, and You can see on the right side of the screen how positive volume came in here, not right off the bottom here as I would have liked, but there was a positive signal on the right side bottom of the screen indicating that the inverse dollar would rally. That is, the dollar would continue down. So we pay close attention to the UUP. For our service, for example, we're long the UUP and have been for the last couple of days as the stock market rallied. Everybody's been playing Carnival, CCL, and we're in there too. We're trading it. We actually sold it here and took a profit. It had a nice little pop here in the last few days for our service, but you can see here in the last few trading days a positive VR coming right off the bottom, rising stochastic, and if you just follow up the downward slope there before the big sell-off, a beautiful negative VR came in, and that was your most recent signal. And in theory, you could decide at any point you wanted to get out, whether it was 2 days later or wait for a sign of a bottom, which of course we saw here a couple of days ago. I don't have a projection to where CCL is going to go. Obviously, it's way down. It has potential to recover, I guess, a good part of the entire move at some point. But I would take a look of those moving averages as they start flattening out. That would probably provide some resistance to where this could ultimately go over time. Of course, those moving averages are going to be different positions than you're seeing here, but as a guideline, we use a lot of other tools internally. I'm sure you have tools yourself about how far a rally could go and what resistance levels you want to use and so forth, but one of which would be here a gap in the chart. You can see a gap in the chart, looks like around the 20, it was a 26 level, the right side of the screen there, about 10 or 15 bars in, there's a gap. So that might be, an initial near-term target for Carnival. When I'm not saying it's happening this week, but it could happen the next 30 days. It recovers enough, that might be a decent target. And as long as volume confirms, that gap target would perhaps be something you would pay attention to. Let's see here, another play that we had for our clients is Winnebago, the RV manufacturer. And trading today, THO was up, Thor, and I didn't check Skyline, SKY, but the whole group, is recovering here, I guess, as the entire market is concerned. Same patterns here as it was coming down, negative VRs, and as we bottomed here 3 days ago, with a rising stochastic, we had a positive VR in Winnebago. So we jumped in and we took a nice trade. I think somewhere between the 28 and 32 level. We made 3-4 points in this just on a quick trade here, but there is that gap there, and perhaps that's where it's ultimately headed. Facebook, everybody's favorite, I guess, not my favorite, but bottom signal there, 2 positive volume reversals coming in right off the low, rising stochastic. Recent examples. So these are all, confirmation of, the bottom in the stock market, because obviously Facebook is a big name, and we probably have seen our lows for a while in the stock market. That's my personal opinion. The forecast model that I showed you earlier, I don't know if that's going to be right or not, but it says March low could carry us into summer. We'll find out if that's right or not. But like the weather forecasting joke I gave you earlier, you want to check your short-term indicators along the way to confirm what that potential is. But it'd really be unbelievable if the market recouped a good part, if not all of its decline between now and summer, at a time when everybody was bearish and many people are suffering with the coronavirus. But only time will tell. But anyway, this is what Facebook is showing, at least short-term here on the trading signal. Now, let's say negative VR start to form in all these stocks in the coming days. I'm going to have to respect that and take a second look at my forecast model. So I don't want to get cocky here. The market's going up for 3 months. I'm sure we're going to get some big swings along the way, but you definitely want to pay attention to those volume swings. Teva, it's one of my favorites. It's on our list. It's actually the first Israeli public stock that traded on NASDAQ, I believe, many years ago, way down. I think the stock's down from $70 to about $6. It's coming off a low here. You can see that gap on the right side of the screen. Looks like it's around the 10 and a half area. So I would think that's sort of where it's going here. Most recent signal was positive, so we're going to go with that for our subscribers for now. KBH, of course, the home builder, big there was negative VR there just before the positive VR came in on the right bottom of the screen, but with a rising stochastic and with the market oversold and with gaps I wasn't about to play the negative VR, but you just have to know that sometimes there's aberrations, could be a news story or something. As you can see, this was a nice trade for KBH. And again, these charts were as of yesterday, so they don't reflect today. I couldn't get them all together from the close to this moment. Uber was also a great trade for us. Positive VR coming right off the bottom. You can see on the right side there, negative VR a couple weeks earlier, literally right off the top before and south. And great signal there came in. This one already exceeded its gap. So we already sold this, just letting you know, from our subscribers. Took a trade here as well. When you get these type of tremendous moves, remember the name of my service is VR Trader. It's not VR Investor, though we do give an intermediate perspective. As with the forecast model, we like to ring the register, as I say, as often as we can. Really like SPCE, with their plans to launch a shuttle for passengers into space, and this is also one of our trades. We still have it on our list, by the way. Positive VR right off the bottom, rising stochastic, and this is just another example of sort of highlighting some of the names we had on our newsletter. And here, CEF, we got to touch on gold and silver here a little bit. This is the Sprott Gold and Silver Fund. It used to be Central Fund of Canada, CEF. As you can see, it had a big move here in the last few days. We actually sold it, not because of negative VR, but too many gaps to the upside, and the stochastic seems to be losing some momentum here. So I took a little bit of a judgment here with this, that gold and silver may be getting a little ahead of themselves here just on a trading basis, and I'd like to see those gaps filled if possible. I could be wrong here. I did take a trade in it, and volume comes into the upside or it breaks out, obviously I'll have to reconsider that. Exxon, everybody was telling me I had to stay away from crude oil and anything related to gold. I mean, to crude oil, that is, not gold. I mean, this stock was down at 30 just a couple of days ago. I think it almost got to 40 today. Had a 10% yield, positive ER, as you can see, right off the bottom there with a rising stochastic blue chip name. So the stock literally in 3 or 4 days has rallied 10 points, a blue chip name with a, if you got it near the low, around 30, 10% yield. So we also traded Exxon. CGC, jumping over to the marijuana sector. That's one of our newsletters. Canopy Growth, nice rally here. It seems like all the cannabis stocks hopefully have finally bottomed. They've been in a bear market since April of last year. Volume coming into the upside. Actually, the volume leader today on the cannabis sector was Aurora Cannabis, which is approaching, I think it traded $1 a share. It was down to about 40 or 50 cents and used to be 10 times higher than that. So whether that's a turnaround or not, but we are long CGC and a couple other names, and it looks like at least a short-term bottom came in here. So we are trading as we always do the cannabis. GW Pharmaceutical also in the that sector name, one of our favorites, way depressed here, and most recent signal are positive VR. There you can see on the right bottom of the screen. So we are long GW. Stock's down from like 189 down to I think around 70. So way undervalued. And as you know, they have FDA approval for their Epidiolex and Sativex drugs. Anyway, Jeff, I covered all the examples that I wanted to cover. If we have any other specific questions, we left ourselves about 7 minutes here to do so. So thank you. And again, here's our newsletter.
All right, can you hear me?
Well,
All right.
Hey, Mark. Startle you there 5 minutes early, but I went through all the charts. So.
Hey, yeah, no, you did a good job. You did a good job. We have some questions though, so that gives us enough time to answer them. One of the questions we had is, can Mark show the S&P 500 at the end of the webinar? I don't know if you can or not. I can. I've actually got my Metastock running. We can look at a couple charts. Somebody wants to look at Boeing as well.
Okay, I don't have the Metastock program opened. I could probably shut down and open it up for you, and it'll take me a couple minutes to boot it up. But I don't know if we can do it in a timely way.
Let's do this. I'll just, if you don't mind, I'll just show my screen. I've got Metastock running. Okay, show my.
Pull up a sequence, if you don't mind pulling up the Boeing and You'll be a lot more
Okay.
efficient with your screen than mine. Thank you.
Can you see mine? Let's
I
see. I
see.
want to just make
I
sure we're
see.
sharing the right screen here. So we've
Oh,
got NCL. This is actually, I was looking at a couple of the cruise lines. Let me go ahead and jump to I guess the SPY.
you
Okay.
want to put it on? Yeah, there you go. You got the candlesticks up. Okay.
Let's see. Well, it is a candlestick chart,
It
SPY.
makes no difference. Candlestick's fine. As long as you see the VRs, that's fine. That's perfect.
Okay, go ahead and select that as the instrument. Let me just check an option real quick here. Okay.
Here we go.
All right,
Let me
let me go ahead and
try
select.
and face the camera more.
It's not. Okay, I actually, hold on just a second. I think because that was part of a layout, we can play with this one that I was playing with earlier. I've already got it open actually. So let's go ahead and move. Let's go ahead and do this a little bit. It's kind of, just because I kind of brought it out of hibernation, it kind of was scaled a little bit poorly. Here's S&P. Why though? Finally, I was able to pull up the SPY. We're taking a look at it. And what are your thoughts, Mark? Can you see it?
Okay.
Number one.
Yeah. I. The truth is, on the SPY, we didn't generate the positive VR in the cash market, in the DDM, and a lot of the other ETFs we did. So on the SPY itself, it didn't generate, but you were getting it in individual stocks, the other indexes, and some individual stocks. So we still went long the market, but you didn't get the pure VR signal at the bottom there as you did in the transports, as you did, I think, in the DDM and the others I showed you earlier.
Mm-hmm. And
So,
you're fairly, so what are you looking for? I'm just kind of curious. I'm going to kind of put you on the spot a little bit. I hope you don't mind. What do you think the likelihood of us having a kind of a W bottom type of a situation where it comes down and tests the lows? Do you think this is going to be more like a V bottom or a W bottom?
you don't know till it happens, honestly. I would think that makes a lot of sense, that at some point here, the news is out on the bill in Congress, and we've rallied as much as we have here. We've rallied from 1800 to nearly 23,000. So we're due. We could certainly have a pullback and start again. A lot of the coronavirus news seems to be getting worse. I'm on the bull side. If I see some negative volume come in, I think we should get some signal, Jeff, to tell us to exit our trades and repurchase at a lower level. So that would be sort of my trigger, I think, in terms of your W comment. But I think if you're looking out long term, you'll be happy if you bought these levels. If you're trading, then you want to watch your negative VRs or your other indicators to indicate. One of the things I also look at is if volume starts to slow to the upside. We keep moving higher and volume doesn't continue to pick up. That's sort of a warning we could be losing some short-term momentum and pull back. But I hate to get bearish as we're coming off such a big low, but I don't disagree with you. We've had a couple gaps that could be filled and we can create the W pattern. Won't know till it happens. I'm not predicting it, but I don't disagree with you.
All right, I'll jump into Boeing. Here we go. And just going to go ahead and I actually kind of agree with you. If I had to guess, and as soon as I do, it's going to be the opposite. But I think we've just jumped to 38% so fast of that retracement. There's some energy there. We'll see if that doesn't peter out over the next days. We certainly have. We have a ton of bad news coming. It's just going to happen. We're not, but the market doesn't seem to be concerned about it. We had a really bad unemployment number today, right?
Well, bad news at the bottom is good, when good news at the top is bad. So actually, in fact, we're
Yeah,
coming up
exactly.
low. There's a lot of bad news from a contrarian's point of view, reinforces that the bottom is there. I'd be really surprised if we take out the lows. I think your W makes sense, but I personally, I think the lows will hold. But maybe, like I say, if I get negative VR, my stochastic turns down, and I see a shorting opportunity, I'll act accordingly. For my trading service at VR Trader, we've taken a lot of profits, as you heard during the presentation, because I was looking for trades and we had such nice moves here in the last few days. We did, as I said, ring the register in a lot of our positions. So maybe you're
Awesome.
right. Maybe we'll start a W pattern here.
I don't think so. I honestly don't think so, but we'll see. What do you think about Boeing?
Oh, well, we had nearly 100-point rally in the stock since its low just 4 days ago. I don't see a VR on the screen here. I don't know if Boeing had generated a VR off the bottom of that one. I guess it didn't, according to your screen. It just killed based on the airline shutdown, and it's rallied so much now. I wouldn't be a buyer here. I think long term you're a buyer, but I mean the stock's rally was about from 93 up to 180 in 4 days. I mean, nearly 100-point move. I'd rather do some fishing for Boeing as a trader, but I would say long term it's probably going to go back to $300. So it depends on your time frame.
All right, we have another question from YouTube. Nyan wants to know, do we have explorations for VR? So we do. I'm gonna go ahead and just show you how that looks. Let's go ahead and go in here. Right here, we're in the Power Console for the Metastock program. I'm gonna go to the Explorer, and if we come down here, they're gonna be labeled VR Trader. So let me just find them real quick on the list here.
I'm so grateful my dogs kept quiet during this whole presentation, folks.
Yeah, you should give them a bone afterwards,
here
right?
on the floor, and we're having a party here today.
Okay. All right. So it's going to be under that's very nice. Are they going to get a treat? Are they going to get a little walk afterwards?
They're master too.
Okay.
I need to walk.
So if we,
you have to actually walk me.
Okay, yeah, good. Let's see. So right here, I did find them in the scanner. You've got the directional, the 2-day, and the sequential. So if you want to go in there and actually look for opportunities, these are explorations you can run. I can come in here. Let's just run a sequential. And the way I'm going to go ahead and set this against a local data list that actually just updated. So I'm going to we'll just do the S&P 500 real quick. I only have about 471 in here. I need to update this list. But I'll go ahead and start the scan just so you can see how fast this runs. I've got another one, as you can see, actually selected right here, the performance monthly. I'm gonna turn that off. So I've got to go up here and uncheck it. And what I'll do is I'll run a daily scan. So I'm gonna go through here and have it scan all the dailies to find the VR sequentials. I just click on the start scan right here. It's gonna be done in just a second. So right here, it's going through 500 different securities, about 471, and it's gonna give us kind of any results that we have for the VR Trader. In the S&P 500, we actually didn't have any today. And that looks like it might be, I'm gonna try one different thing. That might be an issue with just kind of the way the VR Trader is running. Let me just check that again with a regular data load.
Well, I appreciate Jeff teaching me something that I didn't know Metastock could do. That shows you the power of the program. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I just needed to load a little bit more data in there. So I'd recommend you load about 1270. You'll notice that we went through and we were able to see if there's anything that has a VR plus. If it has a VR plus, these are going to be long signals for tomorrow. So right now you can look at Air Products, Akamai, Alexan, Allegion, Amazon. Let's go ahead and take a look at Amazon. Is that okay, Mark?
Why not?
But I'd actually like to get your opinion on it too. So I'm gonna go ahead and open the chart. I can do that right from here. And the scan that we run was the VR sequential. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and attach what we call an expert advisor here. And the expert that I'm gonna do is the Leibovit. And you'll see that there's different versions of these. I'm gonna do the VR sequential. So for equities, I'll go ahead and attach that here to the chart. We'll go ahead and click on this. And just kind of taking a look at it, we had a VR negative 2 in a row that happened yesterday, but obviously now we have a VR positive. This VR negative that we had up here at the top looked really good. This VR looked good. This VR looked good.
Right at the same time, right?
Yep. So we've got stochastic on here. It's pointing up.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a 533, but it shows that it's confirmation. And then the negative VR, like I said, I would have ignored because the stock's down so much, and you can see in the bottom the stochastic was bottoming out. and I wouldn't be taking a negative trade. I like catching negative VRs off tops and positives off bottoms. So this would say you're long based on, and your stop would be the low from that negative VR. The low of that prior day would be your mental stop.
So we're not recommending you buy anything, just for what it's worth. But if you were to take advantage of something like this, you would recommend putting a stop loss initially right here. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, right below this low.
Correct. That's
Okay.
how I trade.
Okay. Let's take a look at what the expert kind of gives us a feeling of. So I'm just going to go ahead and open it up. We knew we were going to get a VR long signal. The long signal with your stop loss set to 16.2590. So it is actually telling you where you should put that. And it looks like that's going to be about where we drew that level in, maybe a little bit lower. So once you get that long signal, it's going to go ahead and paint it on the chart. It's also going to tell you to put a stop loss in, and it's going to give you an actual mathematical value for that. So, and it is actually, funny enough, right almost where I drew that line. It was up just a little bit higher. So there you go.
Works out great. That's a great tool there. We can open that box and give you the guidelines.
Okay, let's see. Any more questions? So thank you for that question, Nyan, about the exploration for VR. That was a really, really good one. I see the end of the questions in here, and I don't see any more questions in GoToWebinar either. So let me kind of go back to the PowerPoint that I was working off of. I just want to give you a bit of a special offer. Again, Mark, thank you for your time. It's always good to talk to a top market timer. You know, it's the way that content I call it a contest, but you just send in all your trades. It's a very, very coveted prize. And congratulations on winning last year.
Yeah, well, I'm a survivor, Jeff. I can tell you that much.
So in the volume reversal toolkit that we have for Metastock, you've got all three of the systems. You've got the 2-day, you've got the directional, and you've got the sequential. But in addition to that, depending on the actual markets you're interested in, you've got customized versions. So you've got cocoa, you've got equities, you've got futures, you've got a lot of different versions that are actually customized to the security that you're looking at. If you're doing equities, well, there's an equities version that you can use as well. So those are all included. You've got the explorations, which allow you to run the scanning. You've got the expert advisor that allows you to go in and see what your stop losses are. They paint the buy and the sell signals on there. And all of that is just basically $99 a month for your Metastock subscription. So Mark, have you lost track of how many times you've won that top market timer award?
I know for sure too, you know, last years, yeah, but I'm always in the list somewhere, you know what I mean? You can't always be number one, right?
Yeah, I disagree, but I know that that's a competitive part of it.
You're number one. I know that.
But I mean, it is. I know how competitive that is. Everybody wants that contest to win, or they want to win market timers. So, and you've won it a whole bunch of times. So. It speaks a lot to the tools that you use and what you're doing. So, but you can, so we basically, for the VR Trader, it's a subscription. It's $99 per month. What we want to do is we want to let you try it. So for what we're going to do here as part of the webinar is we're going to say you can buy it, pay 1 month, $99, and we'll give it to you for 3 months. So for about $30 a month, you can try it for the next 3 months. If you like it, great. If it helps you make money, great. You're going to know that within a trade or two for $90, right? So give it a go. Play with the same tools that one of the proven top market traders has used. And if you like it, keep it. So give us a call, 800-882-3040. You can visit our sales guys. You can chat with us at metastock.com/sales chat. One more question for you, Mark. Like if somebody wants to kind of take a look at some of the newsletters that you have and that kind of stuff, we should give you a plug for that. Where should they go to kind of see the newsletters?
Okay, if they want to sign up, vrtrader.com, and if you send me an email and you're interested in signing up for any of the newsletters, I have a special promo code that I can give you, which will give you 50% off on any of the subscription. So
Oh,
just
well,
email me.
you better give us the promo code then.
Okay. I'm trying to think what it is. I have to email them the promo code. I think it's, I'm going to say it wrong unless I have a number in front of me here. But if you email me, I'll email you back with the promo code. Okay. My email address is mark.vrtrader@gmail. vrtrader@gmail.com, and I'll send you the promo code, and you'll save 50%.
Awesome. Mark, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any
Thank you.
final thoughts for us?
What I could say is stay positive, and I think the virus, my own personal estimate, is within the next couple 3 weeks we'll see cases decline, and we'll have a great summer, and hopefully stocks, as my model is indicating, will participate as well. It doesn't mean we can't have bear markets later, but if I had to make a prediction, I would say the S&P will be well above its highs in the next year and a half or two, and perhaps dramatically higher than where it was. So stay optimistic.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming in, Mark. Always good to see you. We should have you in more often.
I could be here every day if you want.
All right. All right. Okay. All right. We'll see you tomorrow then.
Take care.
All right. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Mark. Take it easy. All right. And thank you, everybody else, for coming. We certainly appreciate that. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a little bit. I always find it interesting to see how people are thinking about the market, particularly when there are people like Mark. So 800-882-3040, metastock.com/sell-chat. Want to say thank you for everybody for coming. I do hope it was helpful. And we'll see you next time, and hopefully stay safe, stay sanitized. All right, see you at the next one.
Bye-bye.